There's a new game sweeping all the platforms from mobile to PC to console called Zenless Zone Zero. And in this interesting game, you find yourself doing what you do in a lot of RPGs, making friends. But today on Geek Devotions, we're going to talk about why we need friends and how to do it. Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know you're loved. I'm Dallas. I'm so glad you've hit the play button today. If you're new to our show, we take geek pop culture items like movies, video games, comic books, and we use it to let people know to love. So if you don't watch past this moment, know this: we love you, we care about you. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Do not give up. Before we start, I do want to remind you guys that we are just a few days away from the closing of our pre-orders on our brand new shirts that we're putting out. These designs say hope and love, and they highlight John 3:16 in Japanese, and also the phrase, "'Cause he loved the world, we love the world." These shirts will be released at GeekCon here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and if you pre-order your shirts, you'll be able to pick it up from the con floor, and then we will be mailing shirts the week following. If you're interested in picking up one of these shirts, please reach out to us. We are taking pre-orders via PayPal and Venmo. Today, ladies and gentlemen, on our final episode of Season 8 of Geek Devotions, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a look at Zenless Zone Zero. This is a new game that, honestly, it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying the vibes of it. It has really interesting combat. It has interesting story mode to it. It's a lot of fun, and it's free. There's some stuff you can pay for if you want to, but for the most part, it's actually free. In this game, you play one of two characters, Wise and Bell. And basically, you're a proxy. You're kind of an operator who's outside of these disaster zones called hollows, where you send teams in to try to take out monsters and achieve different objectives. And like I said, that's the crudest, most rudest, not the rudest, but that was the most basic description of what the game's about. But it's really interesting because as you play through, you have to develop relationships with various individuals. Friendships become relatively important in this game. From the word go, you meet a whole crew of people called the Cunning Hares. And you're their first group of individuals that are clients of yours, but as you play the game, you develop friendships. And this conversation of friendships begin to strike me because honestly, we all need friends, but at the same time, a lot of us, we struggle. We struggle with the idea of having friends and what that looks like and how to do that. So I want to kind of, using the game, talk about some aspects of developing friendships. The first level of friendships I want to talk about is family friendships. This is a interesting topic, and it's one of those ones that gets difficult for some people because as we grow, sometimes we don't have great relationship with our family. But in the game, we see Wise and Bell, and they're a great example. They're a brother and sister duo who they work together. Yes, they're siblings, but they work as friends. One of the first levels of friendship is developing friendships with your family members. The second level of things is people that you have a common goal or interest with. In the game, you meet the Cunning Hares, and at first it's just a job. It's just a situation that you're trying to do something. But as the game plays out, you develop friendships. You develop a relationship with these individual characters. And this, honestly, it's one of the things that bleed out into society. A lot of people, they have this mindset that friends, it's just one of those things that just kind of happen. But oftentimes, a lot of the friends that I developed over the years, it came out of a situation where we had a common goal. We were working towards something together, whether it was a job, maybe it was a project I was part of that was separate from everything. But there was a common goal that we were going for, and out of that relationship, out of that goal, we developed friendship. We developed a relationship with each other. And I'm using the example of a goal more so than common interest. It's really easy to have this idea that, everything has to come out of the common interest of something major, something we hold on to. As geeks, we have, a lot of us hold to that identity of being a geek. And so geek culture, nerd culture, when we meet people who don't get that, we feel like we can't be friends with them. But the reality is you can find something to be friends with somebody over. Like their common interests somewhere down the road that you can find. Is it easier when there's like a major topic that you love and they love also, you guys can talk through? Yeah, it's definitely easier. But at the same time, if you're being intentional, you can develop a friendship with people who don't share all the common interests that you have. The third thing is what I would call happenstance. In the game, you meet a young girl named Corin, and you basically you're kind of traveling through the hollow, and you just happen to find her. And because you're showing care for her, you develop a friendship with her, and she becomes a character you can use later in the game. Happenstance is one of those things I think most people they really want. It's just something you just stumble upon a person and, oh, we're best friends. This particular relationship is interesting because it requires us to be intentional. We need to be intentional about looking for people to be friends with, to develop a relationship with. And some of those things just kind of pop up. Whether it's you riding a bus, maybe you're on a job site and there's something that happens to be there. Maybe you're in the cafeteria eating lunch and you just happen to see somebody that sits next to you. It's one of those incidental things that just kind of happens. But we have to be intentional about looking for those opportunities. Now, I know some of you guys look at me like, Dallas, I've done this. I've been in these places. I've tried looking for friends. And every time I try, I just don't seem to develop friends. Well, let's talk about some basics of developing friendships with people. And you kind of see some of this played out in the game. As you play the game, you discover that if you are intentional about not responding with a quick rhetoric towards the other characters and saying maybe something crude. And sometimes you respond accidentally, you don't realize it's kind of a rude comment, but it is. But if you are intentional about listening to the other characters and respond in a positive way, in a gracious way, you find that the relationships are better throughout the game. In the same way, we need to be intentional about listening more than we speak. There's a lot of people that, while they may be listening to you talk, they're not actually listening to you. They are trying to figure out the next thing they're going to say. And honestly, we're all a little bit guilty of this, aren't we? Of having a conversation with a person, and in the back of our mind, we kind of hear them, but we're actually more intentional thinking about, hey, I'm going to say this next, and I'm going to talk about this. And sometimes we are in such a habit of that, we don't recognize that we have dominated a conversation. I was talking with an individual once, and we're talking about the timeline of a recording that they had done, and they realized that as they looked at the audio wave of their own conversation and the audio wave of the person they were talking to, the person they were supposed to be putting attention on and talking with and finding more about, their audio was very, very little. They dominated the conversation. That visual really shocked them. They had to go, I need to be intentional about listening more than talking. If you want to develop friends, if you want to have friendships with other people, you have to be intentional about listening, not talking, and not even thinking about how to respond to people, just listening to them, letting them get things off their chest, talking about different aspects of life. When we talk more than we listen, what that tells the person is that they're not interesting. What that tells that person is you're not really interested in knowing about them or having a relationship with them. You're more interested in almost sometimes dominating them with your own words. In the game, when you meet Corin, there's this interesting conversation with her where she's kind of shocked that you'd be willing to take care of her, to be with her, and to walk her through a situation she's in. This is the happenstance situation I was telling you about. And this leads me to my second thing about how to be friends. We need to be willing to be present when people need us. We need to be willing to take care of a situation when people need us. Now, that doesn't mean that we drop everything, we just give up our entire lives and just be a doormat for people. But what it does mean is that we have to be present. If you're not in a situation, if you're not in a room, you can't develop relationships with people. There's a lot of people that have this mindset that friendships they're instantaneously, bam, they're there, and it just goes on. But no, it takes investment of time, of working with people and being there on a regular basis. If you are not present, nobody can be present for you. How does it play out in the real world? There's this idea of 168. We all have 168 hours in the week. And if you break down that 168 hours, you may discover something interesting, that perhaps you're not taking full advantage of the time you have to be investing in other people, to be present at maybe church functions, at family events, taking interest in people's lives and talking with them and doing life. If we're not present and taking advantage of that 168 appropriately, then you can't hope to truly grow relationships with other people. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but I want to bring out this one last tip, and that's simply this. Being intentional about showing interest in other people's interests, even if it's not your own interest. That's a mouthful, I know it is. But what it basically means is be willing to sit there and listen to a conversation maybe you just don't really care about, you don't understand it, it's not something you really get. And be willing to listen. Let the people express what's on their hearts. The more you're willing to do that, the more they go, man, they genuinely care about me. And that helps develop a bond with those other individuals. Being willing to listen to them. This goes back to that first thing we talked about, listening more than talking. Sometimes that means listening to things that you're not really interested in, but it's something for them. It's something that they're passionate about, or maybe something they're going through. Being willing to listen to that opens the door for a deeper relationship. Now, some of you guys, you're sitting there going, well, Dallas, I don't need friends. I hear what you're saying, but I just don't need it. I've been burned enough. I don't need these people. I'm sorry, but that's just not accurate. In Genesis chapter 2, God says it's not good for man to be alone. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12, we're told that we need people to strengthen us, to hold us up in the hard times. God understood that we're fragile people, and as strong as you may be, you actually need somebody in your life. Unfortunately, there's a whole group of Christians out there that are like, well, I don't need church, I don't need community, I'm good being by myself. You're not, and you're not actually growing the way as well as you think. You may think you're spiritually mature, but if you've isolated yourself from the body, if you've isolated yourself from other Christians, you're not growing. Proverbs chapter 27 tells us that we need that. We need people in our lives close to us to help us become sharper, to become what we're supposed to be. Ask yourself, do you have friends who are there, who are present to help you grow, to help you to be what you need to be? And I understand some of you, maybe you're in a situation where you don't, and you've genuinely been trying, and I'm sorry it's been hard, but evaluate. Perhaps maybe there is something on the inside. Maybe you've lost something. Maybe you've not been listening the way you need to listen. Maybe you've not been showing care the way you need to show care for. Now, some of you're in genuine bad situations, and that's a rough place to be in. You do need to do some shifting in your life. You need to find a different group of individuals. The Bible does also talk about how being around the wrong group of people can actually corrupt your own life, and you need to be careful about who you are making friends with. But the fact of the matter is, you need friends. You need godly friends. Friends who believe the same thing as you as a Christian, that will lift you up and challenge you. Not just go along with anything you say, but hey, help you to grow and become what God's truly called you to be. Question of the day for you guys. What's your thoughts on Zenless Zone Zero? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Leave a comment and let me know. I'll remind you guys that GeekCon is coming up here in just a few weeks. We are excited to be there with you guys. If you are in this report poster, please come by our booth, say hi. Let's take a picture with you and your cosplay and love on you for a minute. But do me a favor. This is key. This is super, super big for all you devoted geeks that are going to be at the con floor. While we want to hang out with you, and we absolutely do, we want to hang out with you for a while, walk around the con floor and love on the people on the con floor. Talk about people's cosplays with them, encourage them, be friendly, develop friends, look for opportunities to develop relationships with these individuals who are on the con floor with this common interest of geek culture. I want to give a special thank you to all the devoted Patreon geeks who have helped us with Geek Devotions to help support our ministry here. Thanks to you guys, we're able to go to GeekCon. Thanks to you guys, we're able to have this equipment that we have to create the devotions that we are doing. And again, we could not do this without you guys. And if you'd like to become a devoted Patreon geek, visit our website, geekdevotions.com. Now, if you can't support us financially, that's perfectly fine. Guys, share these videos, hit the like button on this, subscribe to our channel, take part in our community. That's how you can help us to grow. That's how you can help us to reach more people. Take part in our Facebook group, Devoted Geek Life. Take part in our Discord channel. Be part of the community and be present. Finally, guys, I want to remind you guys, check out all our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're on all those platforms. Oh, TikTok and Threads, that's the thing too. Until next time, stay devoted. Peace and love.